All right, we're
Okay. South Essex Fire Department. So just to give you a quick snapshot, we're still doing about 40% medical related on our runs. We're about 28. We did about 2,800 runs through July. We'll get to about 5,000 incidents annually, and about 40% of those will be EMS. Um, Luckily, we have had very few fires. We've been doing coverage for other towns in their fire headquarters or fire stations. And also, we've done about 3 or 4 building fires that we've attended. But July was all mutual aid. We had none come in. We had no fires locally, thank goodness. And we've gone out. Um, One thing I wanted to raise with the committee and bring it to the full township committee after I do a little bit more research is our EMS fees. The last time we changed them was a couple years, 2 or 3 years back. We now get $1,050 for every transport. I believe the fee is now acceptable up to $1,200, and I think we want to keep changing the fee and bring it up. These are third-party payments. We don't go after the individual, but this is insurance company, Medicare. So we should, pass an ordinance and change the fees. And so I'll work on that and bring it to the township committee when it's ready. I assume everybody's okay with that.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. And that's all I have for the South Essex Fire Department. And so that brings us to the chief.
That's you, Al. You have to unmute.
I think I'll be used to this thing by now. Go back to July, just to summarize our July crime report. In July, we had the big jobs that we're having are burglaries. So in July last year, we had 4, and this year we had 1. The total for the year we're pretty even. 2023 at this time, to the end of August, we had 24. We have 25 this year so far. I'll dig deeper into why it kind of evened out. It slowed up between July and August, even though we're still getting a few burglaries. But I'll dig deeper into that in a minute. Robberies are down 71% from last year. So that's a big number that went down. Thefts have gone up. To August last year we had 138. This year we have 172. Motor vehicle thefts have gone down. They've been going down every year. 38 last year, 30 this year. Most of the vehicle thefts are in conjunction with the burglaries we are receiving. So since we had the uptick in burglaries, and these aren't the type of burglaries we're used to, the burglaries that you see during the day. When most people are working during the day, people will go in and steal items. These are happening overnight. So they usually wait for the resident to go to sleep. They go in the house, take the keys to these high-end vehicles, and remove the vehicle. This is, as I've been stating the last couple of meetings, this is happening all over the state. South Orange, Dedham, Millburn, Union, down to South Jersey. We started our detail on July 11th. And this is from July 11th to August 13th. So I'm just going to read this out to let everybody know what we have been doing out here for these burglaries. So since July 11th, 2024 to August 13th, 2024, the Detective Bureau actively investigated approximately 28 incidents. These incidents include burglaries, attempted burglaries, motor vehicle thefts, attempted motor vehicle theft, attempted car. You hear me?
Yep. Yes.
Okay. Attempted carjacking, robbery, thefts from vehicles, and trespassing. Due to the majority of our attempting burglaries occurring between the hours of 12 a.m. to 7 a.m., the Detective Bureau has been conducting details on a nightly basis to capture any offenders and or deter any activity. Within this time frame, while the Detective Bureau has been conducting these details, there has been 0 burglaries. So that's from July 11th to August 13th. We had a few since then, but during this time frame, it was 0. The Detective Bureau has identified 4 juveniles and the stolen vehicles used in previous incidents in our township. And all reports and information is currently in review with the Essex County Prosecutor's Office. Even with 0 attempted burglaries happening while the Detective Bureau are on these details, the detectives have pursued, monitored numerous confirmed stolen vehicles that drove into our township around the Wyoming Avenue area, Irvington Avenue area, Columbia High School area, the Harbor, and the Hilton area. In the last week, detectives observed a confirmed stolen vehicle that was identified doing other burglary attempts in other jurisdictions, parking in areas where previous attempted burglaries have occurred within this year. Detectives pursued, monitored the vehicle into Irvington. Later that day, detectives monitored through our radio system a fresh carjacked vehicle that occurred in Newark on South Orange Avenue. Detectives observed the vehicle in Maplewood a short time later and attempted to stop the vehicle due to time of the day. This pursuit was terminated due to the time of the day. Detectives were able to work with Newark PD and with intel from social media provide identification of 2 juvenile males who posted themselves inside the vehicle. While detectives were conducting a burglary detail, they were in communication with South Orange detectives who observed a stolen vehicle in the area with numerous attempted burglaries within that week. These incidents are being worked with Maplewood detectives who assisted with the ID of 2 suspects. Detectives pursued the vehicle in Newark. Maplewood detective on the detail directed patrols to the South Orange, Maplewood area of Wyoming. Shortly after, 3 adult males were stopped and identified on Wyoming Avenue after they attempted to hide when they observed a marked patrol unit. Other evidence is being used for this crime to get charges. 18 of the motor vehicle thefts, attempts, and thefts from vehicles, these occurred during the daytime, evening hours. Most of these incidents, the Detective Bureau is actually working directly with numerous agencies: New Jersey State Police, Essex County Prosecutor's Office, Newark PD, South Orange, Milburn, Union, Bloomfield, and other agencies. With these incidents, the Detective Bureau has made tremendous strides in identifying the actors, mostly juvenile, who are repeat offenders. Incidents spreading across the state. Approximately 15 of these incidents where the juveniles were identified, and the Detective Bureau is actively working with the Juvenile Division and Essex County Prosecutor's Office. It should be noted that during these details, South Orange, Milburn, and agencies around us are also receiving these type of crimes. Springfield Avenue, the Richards gas station, we had a carjacking there. We did charge a juvenile suspect for that, and that person has been charged with carjacking, robbery, and aggravated assault. So we did make an arrest of a juvenile in that case. Another burglary of a vehicle. Detectives were able to track the vehicle in the Newark with assistance of New Jersey State Police. The vehicle and 3 occupants who ran from the vehicle were apprehended and brought to the county jail. They were charged for receiving stolen property and eluding and aggravated assault against police officers. So that's a snapshot of what we have been doing from that time frame. There's other suspects we have identified and charges are pending. Again, we are still out there. Even with us making arrests, these kind of crimes are still happening, and we have some folks identified, and we're working with the prosecutor's office for charges. That's where we're at with the burglary details. Anybody got questions about the burglaries?
So, Chief, can you just clarify your work with the state a little bit to what you can explain.
Yeah, so it is not just the state, it's the prosecutor's office and other agencies. When we get this information, we send the information to other agencies because they might have the same type of crimes. And they might be able to identify the same type of suspects. So just because they're doing the crime here, we have them identified, we might be able to get additional charges with identification and with evidence if they're doing it in other areas. So the state police assist us with that. We work with them on another case, but so I'll leave it at that. But we work with these different agencies in identification. Our detectives doing real good in identifying these people and providing that information to other agencies.
So you feel like the joint effort is making some progress in this
Definitely.
sort of spree that's been going on.
Right. And I will also say our detective bureau is, I think is identifying these people more so than anybody else.
So, Chief, you kind of buried the headline. The headline is for the 7 months of 2024, crime is down 41% over the same period in 2023.
Yes.
Correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
correct. I was excited about the burglary details that we've been.
Yeah, no, I understand that, and that's good. But I think the high level number is, that's a significant decrease, and
Right.
I think the reduction in robberies is particularly important because that's always a person to person situation.
Right.
And as we saw over the years, there were more instances when we had robberies where people had guns or knives, and that always can go bad real quickly.
Definitely.
And I guess the stolen car stuff has leveled off.
Yeah,
but 41% is a good number.
Yeah, and like the straight car thefts have been going down from year to year.
Right.
So like the car running on the street and things have been going down. Yeah, just the burglaries is what is getting us. So we're on it and we're in those areas and we're doing a lot of good work there.
Right. No, that's great. Anybody have anything else on the stats? These stats? Chief, you want to talk anything in particular about overtime you want to share with us?
Yeah, just that the overtime is up a lot and is due to it is due to these details. So we've been running these details almost every night.
Okay.
With patrolmen and detectives, each have their own assignments on these details. So one part of it is deterring it with marked units and lights and everything else, and the other is the investigation part of it, and also mix and match, trying not to be detected and catching whoever might be doing it. So again, it's been working out, but it's not like when I was in patrol and we had a rash of burglaries and you catch the guy who's doing the burglary, then they stop. This is, we catch the guys, but it still continues. So we're still out there.
Well, and based on what you said around the apprehensions and the reductions, the cost benefit is sort of on the positive right now. We may be spending more on overtime, but we're getting good results from it.
Right.
Do you think it's going to continue through the year?
Yeah, I mean it's a little bit because we're still getting attempts even when we're out there. We just had one recently, so that kind of bothers us. But through investigation, some of them might not be related to this group, this style of burglary. So we're looking into that. It might be something else. So yeah, we'll continue until even when we made these arrests or these identifications, we still were out there because we weren't sure if they would stop or not, and we were right, they didn't stop. So
okay. And Chief, where do we stand on our table of organizations? How are we doing with vacancies? Do we have any?
we're full. We're not vacant.
Okay. Anything on the horizon?
No, not that I know of right away. No.
Okay.
We're pretty good. Or, yeah, we're good. We're good. We talk about some stuff offline, but we're good.
Patrick, you have a guest in your room that you tried to get off camera. Come on.
I tried. He's
Yeah.
interested in our committee.
Hi, how are you? What's his name?
He's so much cuter than,
Luke,
why don't you
Luke. Hi,
put
Luke.
Luke in the chair?
he's excited because today's the first day he wore his Halloween pajamas.
Oh, can we see him?
Wow,
That's early.
it's early. It's only
Let's see 'em.
September 11th.
Oh, cool.
What
We're
are
looking at
they?
your pajamas.
Oh,
Oh, look at that. A
Oh,
pumpkin.
definitely
Very
Halloween.
cool pumpkin.
Very
jack-o'-lantern, Beck.
You say
Does
thanks?
Daddy have pajamas like that?
No.
Please.
No.
This
Honey is
is
cool.
publicly recorded.
Yeah, YouTube. You're on YouTube, Luke.
This will be the cutest part of the meeting. All right, go ahead, pal.
Yeah, totally.
Can we get one of those plugs ourselves?
Yeah.
I bet you like to plug us up every
I
now
need
and
them
then, right?
though for myself from time to time, a little soothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
that's what
You
the
talk too
point
much.
was,
Poop.
but okay.
Okay, Chief, anything more you want to tell us? We are going to go into executive just so you could share anything more confidential.
Just school has started. We're in the second week. I did if anybody has any complaints about crossing guards or where they should be at other times, you can you can call our main number immediately, or you can email me. I got a few concerns, but I'm sure there's probably more out there. But I only received 2, so I know there's probably more, but you gotta let me know so we can take care of it. Once I find out, we do our best to take care of it.
Okay. And speaking of crossing guards, how are the vacancies there? Have we filled them all?
Yeah, we filled them all. We just have to get a couple trained. So we filled them. We'll meet with them, and then we'll train them for like a couple weeks on their corner with a more senior guard, and then they'll be ready to go.
So Patrick, it seems like by increasing the salary some, we're getting a response.
We are.
Yeah, we just started advertising the new salary last week after it was approved at the township committee meeting. So get some more response on that. And then we have those 2 extra crossing guard spots that were approved in this year's budget. So those will be people who are getting hired and then trained up. But long term, that'll really help us keep officers on the street that would otherwise get pulled off to cover posts when guards are out sick. So good news on the crossing guard front.
Okay, great. Nancy Dean, anything for the chief?
Nope.
Okay. All right. So let's go to discussion items. Updating the rates for police outside jobs. So I worked on this back in 2020, 2021, and we set rates for 2021 at that time. I guess we did this in 2020 for implementation in 2021. We have not updated those rates. And Patrick and Chief, I would like to have you take a look at this. I mean, we're still charging roughly $82 for a general rate for an officer. And I would assume that it's costing us more for an officer over the last few years. So if you can take a look at that and we can craft a new ordinance. I'm not sure if we do this by ordinance or resolution, but whatever it is, we ought to update the rates so that we have more current rates for off-duty employment.
Sure.
Yeah, it goes by the senior officers overtime. That's how we. But
okay, but I think we're still charging the $82, right?
yes, it's less than what it would be. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's probably
It's less than what
closer
it's
to.
costing. Yeah.
Yeah, so we may, they get that, they get the money, right? We don't actually do we pay them the $82? Do we pay them their overtime rate?
It would be it's I think it's at 86 now, but
Okay.
yeah.
All right, so let's just get that squared away. And then the other thing, Patrick, you and I had a brief conversation about maybe doing some other changes about how these get assigned.
Yeah, both. I think the chief and I know the PBA SOA have an interest in moving to a company that will take in overtime requests straight from the contractor, the event, and then through a app, they put that out to officers in the municipality. Those officers can, on their phone, respond back, say if they're available, not available. The big one that does this is Jobs for Blue, and I know that they reached out to us a few times, but there's some other people out there who use it. I think there's a benefit. I know there's a benefit to us. One, it's a better program in terms of how officers are able to respond and get picked for these assignments. Two, they take the money and it keeps us out of the position of having to chase down extra money because the detail went wrong and they didn't have enough in escrow. And then it does the timekeeping. So when an officer shows up to a job, they punch in on the app. When an officer leaves, they punch out. You get those tickets so that, if you're working a road job and that contractor, maybe it's the county or maybe it's another private contractor wants to see your tickets in terms of when you punch in, when you punch out, where you were, it'll track all that for you. So there's a really big benefit to it. The one piece I have to figure out is they charge us a fee. And so if we don't change our fees in terms of there's an administrative rate that we charge on top of that $82, $86 you were talking about, if we don't change our fee at the end of the year, we'd be earning less. Now we'd be doing less. So there's, some trade-off there. Right now it's run through our unions, even though there's some consideration about, or discussion about, how we want it to run. It's run through our unions. They have to put in a lot of time. So we would be collecting less, but spending less time doing it. But we could also increase our rates to, at least to some extent, to accommodate that. So I need to look at what the appropriate overhead expense percentage is. And I'll look at other municipalities in our area that use Jobs for Blue and similar programs, see what they're charging, and I'll make a recommendation to this group. It could even be in the next month at our next meeting.
I think I would hope that we could do something like this because in addition to the cost at the police, there's also the cost in finance. We've got to track all this down. Every year in our audit, we're flagged for this because we don't get the money up front all the time. So, if we could outsource this, that'd be good.
I'll work to have a full recommendation at the next public safety meeting.
Okay.
How will that impact when we have our own road programs and we have the off-duty police paying at a different rate?
Yeah, so we can include that in our RFP that we want to have the opportunity to charge a different rate for our own events and, operate generally in the way that we operate now. In discussion with companies who do this, they're able to build that in for us.
Okay.
Because that's not where they're making their money. That's not the bulk of their work anyway. And our officers are familiar with these programs. I know Milburn uses it. And so when we take Milburn jobs, that's how we're getting them. We being our officers. And so they're familiar with it and they like how it operates. And they've been on me to get this done too. So it's something I promised them to do. And it's, it's certainly ready.
Yeah, when I did the research on this back in 2020, there were a lot of people who spoke about. I looked at a couple different towns, and some of the people who are using this, outsourcing, thought it was just great. It just removes a whole layer of stuff because there's also, I'm not saying it happens with us, but there, it tends to get favoritism in some of these agencies where the same people get the good jobs and other people don't. So it just eliminates that.
Even if that's not a reality, that favoritism, it removes the opportunity for undue criticism. Yeah.
Right.
As long as you amplify, make sure we know the any downsides. But it sounds good.
Yeah.
Right
I will.
now.
I mean, the big downside is, what we may stand to lose in terms of overhead, but I'll present that.
Yeah, we now charge $8, 10%, $8.20 an hour for administration. So we would lose that unless we kept charging some fee and had whatever this outsource was a fee on top of that. You know,
Yeah,
most of these are private companies. And just to go back to the road work, you know, even though we pay for that, that we don't really pay for that. That comes out of
It comes from the contractor.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, well,
So it just makes our contracts more expensive.
right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna move to traffic enforcement plan. So Chief, I put this on here because it works out that on the morning of these meetings, on the second Wednesday of the month, we have an engineering, public works, and planning meeting. And we're constantly being approached by folks who want traffic calming, who want more enforcement, who are concerned about speeding. And so it's always on our mind this day. So when we meet with you at night, this is always on our mind: traffic, and enforcement. And honestly, I took a look at the July, the July stats, and I just want to put these numbers out there. You know, shift 1 had 1 radar ticket. Shift 2 had 0 radar tickets. Shift 3 had 2 radar tickets. Shift 1 had 43 moving violations. Shift 2 had 28, and Shift 3 had 101 moving violations. It looks now that we only have 1 officer in the traffic detail. We've done less than 30 radar tickets year to date, and we've done about 1,500 moving violations year to date. That's about 1 a day, about 10 a day. We're hearing from everyone that speeding, pedestrian people aren't honoring pedestrians, and the stop signs, and I hear it from you. I read these monthly reports. I see the lieutenants put down, next month we'll concentrate on moving violations, or we'll concentrate on traffic enforcement. But the numbers don't change. They're all low. So how do you respond to this? How do you give us some assurance that we're on top of that? So when the folks come to us and talk about traffic safety, we can assure them that not only are we dealing with it on the engineering side, but that we have some enforcement side of it too.
Can I just add to that before you answer, Chief? Just the traffic calming projects, whether it's speed humps or narrowing the drive lanes or whatever it is, it costs money. It costs money to the taxpayers. And while I know we can't enforce everywhere all the time, I feel like if there's a way we can enforce more so that we spend less on physical improvements that not only cost money to install or implement, but then cost money to maintain. And that's a problem. I think a big part of it too is we need some, and maybe this comes from PD, maybe it comes with our new communications person, to have education program to residents about, when you leave your house, you're in public and you have to watch out for yourself. Everything's not like taken care of for you. And just education on, pedestrian safety and the responsibility of drivers and pedestrians. So I just wanted to add that in there. But most importantly, we're trying to be nice if we didn't have a budget line for pedestrian traffic calming. And we could just do this with enforcement and education.
Yeah, I understand. I've been promoting enforcement to our officers, but a lot of our officers, what they do is they'll use their discretion or use warnings, which they're allowed to do. But I tell them if we get enforcement in these areas, and we wouldn't have to keep doing these details in these areas. The 4-way stop sign on Newark and Rutgers. if we do enforcement, we do the tickets, the person, traffic, if they see us out there, they're less likely to violate it. I always give this example when I drive home on to going through Scotch Plains. Years ago, I got pulled over there. And to this day, it was probably like 7 years ago. To this day, I slow down because I think I'm gonna get that same ticket over there. So yes, we've been low in issuing tickets for a long time. I do am gonna start having my supervisors do these details along with the officers to make sure that we're doing the proper enforcement at these locations. As you guys well know, the locations are everywhere in town, right? Is everybody speeding?
Yes, yeah, no, we know that. We know that.
Yeah, that's what I'm agreeing. That's where I
Yeah.
get points from. I just got one today from South Pearson and Valley of the lights being that light being run through. So we do put the details out. They sit on the details, but we have to have more supervision on what exactly is happening on these details when we're putting them out.
And so officer would choose a warning over a ticket because why? They don't want to go off time to court if necessary? That's the difference?
Yeah, I don't know the reasoning for it. Maybe they're just trying to be kind with it, or they just I listen to the radio and I hear, there's a traffic stop and then it was issued a warning. So I don't know if that's a thing.
I don't know if that's if a warning is enough incentive for people to stop, right?
Right.
That's why we have tickets.
Yeah.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Because we've been hearing about this for quite some time, Chief. Does it make sense to conduct confidential surveys of our officers? We could just do a survey. Only in the department, could be anonymous. Administration can help us put a quick thing together, couple questions. And maybe this could help us get to the root cause of what's going on.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
What do you
Yeah, look into that of finding out what's happening. As far as the traffic bureau, we're down to one. It's because we may want a detective. So we'll fill that coming up. But also we have accreditation coming up, so we have an officer in that area. But yeah, definitely we need to pick up the enforcement.
And when you look at the monthly report, I'm sorry, Dean, when you look at the monthly reports, even these numbers that I'm putting out, when you talk about like shift 143, almost 3/4 of that are from 2 officers.
Yeah.
And the rest are 0s and 1s, if that. So it's there's some folks who just don't write tickets. And I think we made it clear in the last go around with promotions that if people want to take leadership positions, we're expecting them to be leaders and get the folks who are under them to perform their jobs. So I'm heartened to hear that you're going to put supervisors out there, because I think they need to be out there and see, because we're getting hammered, Chief. We're getting hammered by people. People are paying high taxes and they feel unsafe.
I hear you.
Pat, as the appropriate authority here, what do you think about conducting a survey and collecting some data? Do you think it's worth it?
I don't think it hurts to put the survey out. I'm not sure what I think about it until I see how many people respond and the types of responses, but it certainly can't hurt to ask the questions. I just want to be careful with how we evaluate the answers is all. But we won't know that until we see them. So we can put something out.
Okay. Anything else on this traffic, anybody? Okay, Chief, we received an email from Julia Flath of Walk Bike Ride South Orange asking us to make some changes in our reporting to include crashes that involve bikes and scooters and pedestrians. Did you see? Well, I included in the agenda. Did you get that email?
Yes, I received it.
Okay.
Yes.
So she says that South Orange is going to do this. Is there any hesitation on our part or any reason we can't do this too?
No, I already spoke to our data officer.
Okay.
We got the categories ready to go, and we're ready to put that out. We want to do it weekly though, with our police blotter,
Yeah, that's fine.
right?
That's what she's asking for.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And then, Chief, I just want to alert you and maybe give you some direction here on the Township Committee has received a couple of requests now for us to take a look at overnight parking on the street from 2 to 6. And we said that we would talk to, from an engineering perspective, and we'll also talk to public safety. I know in the past you have been in favor of keeping the overnight parking for security reasons and safety reasons, just like your predecessors, Duval and before Duval. Every chief that I've ever dealt with has asked us not to change it. But we are getting some pressure and lives have changed and people, work has changed and people need cars to get to work and more people are living home than before. And it is getting to be a problem. We're trying to figure out how to, if changes are necessary. And I'm not going to ask you, my colleagues can jump in, but I think what would be useful, not to just have you talk off, sort of the top here, but it would be useful to get from you and your command staff and your leadership there, sort of a paper on why we should keep it. What are the benefits of keeping it? What would be the potential impacts if we removed it? Would there be parts of town that make sense? That you're seeing that people, they're putting their cars out every night because they have no other choice. And they get tickets some nights and some nights they don't. I mean, we gave out 2,300 tickets already year to date. So, over 7 months, that's almost, 175 tickets a month. It's a lot of tickets. So, it would be useful, I think, if you could tell us in a just sort of reasoned approach, what do you think the benefits would be? What are the negatives, so that we could continue the conversation? I don't think anything is imminent, but it is going to be a conversation, and it's not going to be a conversation that goes away.
Well, from my perspective, with my officers, just like you said, enforcement, people need to feel safe. Our midnight, that allows our midnight crew, we drive every street at night. You're getting a patrolman on every street, issuing these tickets and giving, and going to locations where we would, we patrol the whole area, but our midnight tour is out and driving around in areas, and you can't measure it, but it deters crime in some areas because the officers out there issue a ticket 3 a.m. A potential person might come or whatever. So we're out there, and that on top of their checks. So it keeps our midnight tour busy, checking areas and being throughout the town. Also, if a car is parked out there, 4 or 5 days not touched or whatever, it could be a recovered stolen vehicle. It could be a vehicle used for something else. So it allows us to, do a check on these vehicles that we normally wouldn't check if it wasn't for the overnight parking.
Yeah, I understand that. And so what would be useful is if you could put it down into some kind of report for us or just a paper. And then also, if we were to change it, what would be different? I mean, how would it impede anything that you're doing now? I mean, the car, that midnight shift can still drive down, Van Ness and still see the cars there. They're still going to be going down that street. It's just that there might be some cars parked on the street.
Yeah, but normally, a lot of times it's the residents that are calling us for those overnight parking.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand. All right.
It's usually
Well,
a complaint street where we're going on.
Right.
We're issuing.
So we're giving you the chance to make your case. What would be the reason why we should keep it?
Well,
I was just going to say, it's not just, to Vic's point, I think we want you to think about it and just kind of lay it out for us, because we have so many requests. We're having, multifamily homes with like 2 parking spaces, but 5 or 6 cars. So we're trying to just kind of figure out, how do we solve this problem? We've been thinking about private property that we could, have them rent. We've been thinking about public, municipally owned property that we could give them permits for, trying to figure out stuff, nearby these areas. So, but we also know that it's a public safety issue, and it has been for a long time. And the reason so many towns have, middle of the night, they don't want cars parked on the street, because it's easier to patrol and make sure everything's safe, because they can see things easier and so on and so forth. So I guess what we just want is like you to kind of think through it, not necessarily talk about it here, and just kind of give us your thoughts, or even if you have other ideas or solutions, because we're more densely populated than we used to be, and we're just trying to trying to solve this issue that's happening with too many people.
Yeah. Okay. I'll put something on paper.
Dean, I think you wanted to say something.
No, I think the mayor covered it really well.
Okay.
We know the chief's position. Keep it. Don't change anything. But what we're trying to say here is that we don't think that's sustainable long term, because of the issues the mayor mentioned. So if we were to change it or lift it entirely, how do we do that? How do we be creative and still balance that against public safety? That's all.
Okay. I know we have a member of our community board on police, Katrina Campbell's in the attendee. Can we move her over just to see if she'd like to speak to us?
Yes, should be coming over now.
Hello.
How you doing?
Doing great. It always is nice when Zoom says I'm being promoted to a panelist,
Yeah.
like a job.
Feels
So-
important.
Right.
So now that you're promoted, would you like to share anything with us?
I would. I guess these are mostly as I try to take this time as a citizen to also just share a few things. So I'll do that if that's okay. But just want to acknowledge, I'm not sure if you already did, obviously September 11th. And so there are all kinds of memorials, and just want to thank you all for doing your public service. Thank the chief for doing his many years of public service. And, we don't take it lightly what you all do. So just want to acknowledge that first. And then I do have a couple of things. I'll try to do them really quickly. One, I just want to note for the Community Board on Police, I mean, some of you were there in the room, but I just want to acknowledge the really excellent presentation from our crisis intervention social workers. For those who may listen to this recording or watch later, it's really, really good to see the work that they're doing and to see the increase in the work that they're having to do. So I think we should continue to advocate for their presence and to the extent necessary, more resources in the future. But just want to highlight that from the board. from what you all were just talking about, so this is me
Yeah,
as
could-
citizen, sorry?
I'm sorry to stop you there.
Yeah.
Before I forget, Pat, have we publicized that report from our crisis intervention folks? Is it available on the website?
Not yet. We're planning a press release for it. So we've got a press release going out this week for CSP&J for homeless outreach, and then one will go out next week for CISW. And we'll be sure to include that.
Might be great. And it might be nice. I think Kasha did a lot of work to promote that, but whoever from the board really worked on that might be good to just get a comment from them on the success of that, or Councilman Daffis. So that would be great. I just want to comment the overnight parking. I am a huge advocate for keeping that rule in place. I can tell you that in my neighborhood in particular, when I see cars on the street or on my own block at night, almost certainly there are people in those cars. And I mean, I won't go into detail so that I'm not identifying people, but it's loud, it creates noise issues. I think it creates issues with people knowing they can sort of camp out on a block. And I do think that it creates certainly concerns for me about safety and what else is going to happen. People, and especially because we now have legalized marijuana. But I don't think it's public, you smoke in public, but you get a lot of that as well when you see people parked on the street. There's a lot of that is just, and it's not very, very nice for citizens like myself. A couple of things, a friend of mine who lives on Newark Way, who knew that I served on the community board on policing, asked me to just alert the public, but also you all, to the importance of cars, the traffic point, right? Cars stopping when there are school buses. Sometimes those school buses are going to different schools, not necessarily in the district, but making sure that cars are stopping when the school bus has the stop sign out. Because Newark Way in particular is quite narrow, so it's really difficult for young kids who are trying to board the buses. And then from my own standpoint, just a couple of things. I probably have said before, I'm a runner. I walk a lot around in the neighborhood, and today I went out for a nice run this evening before the meeting, and it was one of the first times that I did not run into cars that are parked across the sidewalk, or people on motorized vehicles, including children, on the sidewalk. And I have not yet found an ordinance that speaks to either of those things. I'm sure they exist, and there's some user error here, but I would love for the committee to speak to, if you already have efforts underway, or to consider, if you don't have efforts underway, really getting on top of these things. It may seem like nothing, but I saw a lady with a stroller this morning trying to go around the corner on Burnett Avenue, and had to go out into the street because the car is blocking the sidewalk. And when you're walking down the street, walking your dog, or elderly people, or I mean even just totally healthy young people, when you've got somebody on a motorized bike or skateboard coming down the sidewalk at you, it is not a good feeling. And I work in New York, and this is a huge problem in New York City. It's not going to be that kind of issue here, I know, but it would just be really great to understand what are the rules. And if you have a minor person who's on a motorized scooter, skateboard, or bike, like, are they supposed to be on the street, or are they supposed to be on the sidewalk? It would just be good to have clarification, and maybe before we have some kind of police response in terms of tickets, perhaps do a public relations campaign to alert people and educate them as to this issue and whatever, what the rule is going to be. I think that's it. Only last thing I will say is that this meeting is really hard to find on the public website. Weirdly, when you go to today's calendar, you do not get that this meeting was happening, even though you the engineering thing. So it would be great if that could be fixed, because I think that's probably a reason you don't get citizens who are attending. And I think this is one of the better meetings that happens in town.
Yeah, we have a problem ourselves getting on. So just on the bike stuff, there is
the meeting with the same.
There is a prohibition on bikes on the sidewalk. So they're not supposed. We have talked about it. We've talked about taking a look at maybe tightening the ordinance, particularly with electric bikes. We did get some comments from the walk bike ride group of South Orange, to go slow here, because we're trying to encourage people to ride their bikes, and passing laws that prohibit that, prohibit certain things could be in conflict. So we have to work some things out. But right now, you're not supposed to be riding a bike on the sidewalk. And
That's
you're not
any
supposed to
bike?
That's
be,
why it's called.
yeah, you're not
That's
supposed to be
anybody,
blocking
right?
a sidewalk either. Is
Right.
that
Well,
right, Chief? We can give a ticket for blocking a sidewalk.
That's correct. That's
Yep.
that's one of the things we do with protesters. You gotta keep moving or
Right.
you're blocking
Yeah.
the bike from,
okay.
Right. So even a
No,
car, you
same
can't have a
concept.
car.
right.
Now, having said that, we know that there are some very difficult parking situations on the courts off of Boyden. Troy, Evelyn, oftentimes they're parking their cars and they have one car that hangs over a bit into the sidewalk. I mean, on the courts, it's less of a pedestrian problem because people generally aren't walking there because they're dead ends essentially. But it is a little bit of a balancing act because we could give tickets to somebody on Evelyn Court, I'm sure, every night for blocking a sidewalk. And it's just one of the realities that we're faced with about overnight parking. How do we do that? Because when
Right.
these things were,
Especially. Yeah.
yeah,
Sorry.
when these things were built and approved, no one thought that people would have multiple cars, to the extent that they do.
Yeah. I just want to
Exactly.
clarify. I'm sorry, Mary Adam.
It's
Oh.
okay. I was just agreeing with Mr. DeLuca that
Yeah.
it's we were just talking about trying to, accommodate people who have too many cars and living in multifamily. And one of the things they're going to do is try to cram as many as they can to the driveway. And that's by nature, it's going to
Right.
happen
And-
over the sidewalk.
And I just think, I mean, obviously, yes, it's a dilemma because on the one hand, we want to prioritize, I mean, residents have needs and we have a growing resident population. On the other hand, residents have needs. And if you're walking out with your kid or dog or whatever, or by
Correct.
yourself going for a run, you deserve to be safe. And, think about Rutgers Street, right? Which is quite busy. And if you're cutting out into the street and back, I think it's an issue. I do want to highlight, in 2017, my daughter, who had just turned 14, I'm sure these numbers are wrong, but she had just turned 14, 3 days in, was hit by a car on Springfield Avenue. She was riding her bike on Springfield Avenue and crossing a driveway for a liquor store, and a truck hit her. The accident was determined to be her fault because she was 3 days past being age 14. And apparently the rule was you have to be, once you turn 14, you're supposed to ride your bike in the street. So it's interesting that they didn't give her a ticket, but they said the accident was her fault. And here I'm not speaking to just bikes, non-motorized bikes. I'm saying when your bike has a motor on it, it seems to me that it should not be on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
I think the dilemma there is when you are a child, a minor child who is on a motorized bike or skateboard or whatever, should you be on the sidewalk or should you not? I actually think that's a slightly smaller issue because most of the people I see are full-grown adults. But I just want to just kind of show the nuance there a little.
No, we're absolutely, we have a couple of people that on Springfield Avenue on motorized, skateboards or scooters. And it's a problem. And then we have some people who fly down the center of Springfield Avenue in the turn lane on motorized bikes. They're putting their life into danger.
Indeed.
So we're looking to figure out how to do this. It's been a bit of a challenge.
I think with all the new technology and the fact that things that used to be just for adults who knew how to be, my son used to ride a longboard all over Brooklyn, New York. I just didn't think about it because there was nothing I could do about it, and it was very dangerous. But that was his mode of transportation. But now you have stuff that are little tiny kids are on, and yeah, it's tough to keep up with this kind of stuff and try to make everybody safe. But it is called a sidewalk for a reason. So yeah.
Thank you for hearing.
Okay, thanks a lot. We're into public comment. Is there anyone who would like to address the Public Safety Committee? You can raise your hand.
I see no hands.
All right. So, Chief, do you have anything for us in executive? Do you feel you need to go in or no? Oh, you can't hear you. I guess you're trying to be really incognito.
Yeah, why not? I'll get,
Okay.
things done.
So we'll, if we can get a motion to go into executive,
Moved.
move second, all in favor? Aye.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. We're going to go into closed session now. And Patrick, you'll take us off